Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Austin Perry Show. I'm your host, Austin Perry, and this is where we talk about current events, politics, culture, and news. And I want to thank you for tuning in tonight on this special edition of a Saturday, episode 11, April 17th, 2021 broadcast. And if you want to find my video content, ladies and gentlemen, you can find it at Rumble, BitChute, and Brighteon. Those are three social media / website platforms that I am utilizing to host my video content at the moment right now. Also, you can find my video content on my website, AustinParry.org, and that is Parry. Additionally, you can find merchandise, and you can support me by leaving me a donation via PayPal. My email address for that is austin.parry@gmail.com. And I want to let you know that I'm not taking payouts from the government. I'm not taking payouts from big tech. I'm not taking payouts from evil corporations. I'm just a regular guy trying to make a living, trying to report the news and bring you people information that you might find interesting and thought-provoking and enlightening. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the news today on this Saturday, April 17th, 2021, episode 11. First article we have that I have printed up from the internet, from online to talk to you about, is from APnews.com, the Associated Press. And let's get a .cam shot on this real quick. Here it is. AP interview, Beijing says U.S. too negative towards China. And there you have it, folks. Apparently, America's being mean to China. Well, maybe if you didn't have massive slave camps, and maybe if you weren't trying to attack Taiwan with your flyovers with the jets and aggressive tactics towards them, maybe we would be a little bit nicer. But, I mean, China's kind of out of control. I mean, they're communist, folks. China is a communist government. That means enslavement. They basically use their people for slaves to carry out the will of the government. It's a dictatorship, essentially. Xi Jinping is the dictator over there. It's a communist, authoritarian, neo-Malthusian, dystopian system of government. Let's read a little bit from this article here from apnews.com. Beijing, a top Chinese diplomat said Friday that U.S. policy towards China is too negative, and that cooperation could be critically important as the Biden administration focuses on combating COVID-19 and promoting economic recovery. So, I think that we should have good relations with China because I don't support war. At the same time, I think they need to be held accountable for the COVID-19, China virus, Wuhan virus, whatever you want to call it. There is ample evidence to suggest that this virus came out of a level 4 biological laboratory in Wuhan. And so I think that the vast majority of Chinese people are good-hearted people. I think they, for the most part, want the same things. I think we have very many similarities. I think we're much more of the same than we are different than the Chinese people, American people and Chinese people. And a lot of people have dual citizenship. They're American and Chinese. And so I think we need unity, honestly. I don't think we need war at all. I think that we need to find a diplomatic solution. I think that we need to talk things out and handle things like adults and not resort to violence. But at a certain point, it just seems like we're under attack from China. China's policies that are infecting our government, that are infecting Congress, that are infecting the Senate, all the different Chinese spies that have infested all of our different government agencies and government organizations. And so they're trying to basically push policies in America to take away our guns, take away our freedoms, take away our liberties, and push policies that are very bad for American people. And so those are a little bit of my thoughts on that, but let's read a little bit more here from the article. The U.S. appears to be highlighting confrontation and playing down cooperation, Vice Foreign Minister Li Yuqing says in a wide-ranging interview with the Associated Press. Such an approach, I must say, is too negative, he said, adding that it lacks a forward-looking spirit. China could be a partner as Biden tackles the coronavirus and the economy, he said. Well, maybe you shouldn't have started the coronavirus, China. To me, it is hard to imagine the two priorities can be resolved without a cooperative and healthy China-U.S. relationship, he said. Li also signaled that China is unlikely to make any new pledges at a climate change meeting called by President Joe Biden for next week. He spoke as Biden's climate envoy, John Kerry, was discussing the issue on the second day of a closed-door meetings with the Chinese counterparts in Shanghai. Chinese President Xi Jinping announced last year that China would be carbon neutral by 2060 and aimed to reach a peak in its emissions by 2030. So, that's from the Associated Press, says right here, it aims to reach a peak in its emissions by 2030. So China has no intentions, I guess until 2030 they say, to lower its carbon emissions. Meanwhile, the U.S. is leading the world in carbon emission reductions. And it just goes to show you that China gets to dump tons and tons and tons of garbage into the Pacific Ocean. They have no standards over their automobiles or their shipping vessels or their airplanes compared to other European countries and the U.S. as far as different emissions standards that we have that China doesn't have, and so they're polluting the airways much more. And it says right here, Associated Press, and aim to reach a peak in its emissions by 2030. So they're just not even gonna peak out until 2030, they says. And who knows how accurate this report is. I mean, they could just keep going with their emissions, and then we get a stranglehold on our emissions, and so that hurts us militarily. That doesn't give us an advantage militarily, tactically, because, you know, we have to resort to electric engines and can't utilize gasoline engines because we have all these strict standards and rules and policies on our military in America, and China doesn't. And so electric engines can't really power shipping vessels and airplanes very efficiently or to the level where it's cost effective yet anyways. I mean, there are future technologies that look promising, and potentially that could be a viable option in the near future, but it's not there yet. We will lose so much money, and we will have underpowered vehicles and vessels, and we will lose the advantage because we will only be able to produce so many because they're so expensive to produce. And so we will be left at a disadvantage militarily. So China, like I said, doesn't even plan on peaking out its emissions till 2030, according to Associated Press. And apparently we're being too mean to them. We're being too negative. We need to work together to solve the coronavirus, even though China was the one that started the coronavirus. So look into it, folks. Do your own research on this. I encourage you. Don't take my word for it. Look into how there is ample evidence to suggest that the virus came out of a level 4 biological laboratory in Wuhan, China. And let's go on to the next article. This is from CNBC.com. Biden says he is ready to take further actions if Russia escalates against the U.S. Here we have it. This is a legitimate news article that I printed up from the internet. There is the title right there. Biden ready to take further action. So you're escalating it right there, Biden. Says he's ready to take further action if Russia escalates. That's exact projection and inversion. He's saying, I'll take further action if Russia escalates. You're the one escalating it saying that, Biden. Come on, man. Honestly, come on, man. Let's read a little bit of this article here. President Joe Biden addresses the sweeping sanctions his administration imposed on Russia, a move that seeks to address a litany of malign behaviors and is expected to peeve Moscow. Well, seems like Biden's going for good relations with China and bad relations with Russia. I don't know. What is this, trying to start a war or something? I really don't support war, so I hope not. If Russia continues to interfere with our democracy, I'm prepared to take further actions to respond. It is my responsibility as President of the United States to do so, Biden said from the White House. The Biden administration unleashed several sanctions that named 32 Russian individuals and entities for their roles in attempting to influence the 2020 U.S. presidential election. So, they're saying that Russian individuals attempted to influence the 2020 U.S. presidential election. Where's the evidence? I don't know. Honestly, I'm sure there were people in Russia that tried to influence the U.S. election, but was it to a degree that China did? I would say China arguably influenced it much more and spent way more money influencing the election in the United States compared to Russia. So, here we have it. Let's read. Washington, President Joe Biden on Thursday addressed the sweeping sanctions his administration imposed on Russia, a move that seeks to address a litany of malign behaviors and is expected to peeve Moscow. If Russia continues to interfere with our democracy, I'm prepared to take further actions to respond. It is my responsibility as President of the United States to do so, Biden said from the White House. I was clear with President Putin that we could have gone further, but I chose not to do so. So, Biden is escalating things with Russia, and seems that the Biden administration has imposed sanctions. And you might ask yourself, what are sanctions? Well, here I have it from Wikipedia.com. Economic sanctions. Printed up from the internet. Wikipedia.com, folks. Here it is. Let's read here. Economic sanctions are commercial and financial penalties applied by one or more countries against a targeted self-governing state, group, or individual. Economic sanctions are not necessarily imposed because of economic circumstances. They may also be imposed for a variety of political, military, or social issues. Economic sanctions can be used for achieving domestic and international purposes. So there you have it. Penalties that are applied as a targeted, basically attack. I mean, so that is used as a political bargaining chip, economic sanctions, and so the Biden administration has imposed economic sanctions on Russia, which has worked towards deteriorating relations with Russia. And seems as though Biden doesn't like Putin, is trying to piss him off. It just looks like he might be trying to start a war. I don't support war. I think we need diplomacy. I think that we do need diplomacy with China also, but I think they need to be held accountable for a lot of different things, including the virus. Russia is not any angel by any means. They have their problems, they have their issues. But Russia has several nukes, China has several nukes, so I think we all need to get along for the most part. It's a very complex situation. It's very hard to say what exactly should happen as far as relations with different political and economic leaders of major first world countries. But that's a discussion that needs to be had, and that's what people need to start thinking about more, and that's why I'm talking about these type of things. And so here we have it. Next bit of information I have to present to you here from Google.com. And basically, I just did a Google search. How many nukes does Russia have? ? I typed it in the search bar, Google.com. And I printed up the page. Here we have it, document cam shot. Google.com. How many nukes does Russia have? ? And it says, of the stockpile warheads, approximately 1,600 strategic warheads are deployed, just over 800 on-land-based ballistic missiles, about 624 on-submarine launched ballistic missiles, and 200 at heavy bomber bases. Another 985 strategic warheads are in storage, along with 1,912 non-strategic warheads. So what's that all add up to? Several thousand. Several thousand that Google gives me the answer right away when I search it in the search bar. Who knows if it's more than that? I mean, Russia's been making nukes since a little bit after World War II, since the 50s. And so they surely have several thousands, according to Google, probably hundreds of thousands. I mean, enough to destroy the surface of the Earth. Probably enough to explode the entire planet if they drilled down into the mantle or into the core. Or at least blow a big old chunk off of from the side of the Earth, probably. I mean, they got tons of nukes. Russia has tons of nukes. China has tons of nukes. Iran has a bunch of nukes. North Korea has nukes. There's a bunch of countries that have nukes. So all it takes is a president or a leader, an emperor, or, you know, what do they call it? Different word for president, prime minister. All they would have to do is just put in the codes, press the button, the nuke is launched, and then there we have it, nuclear war. And it's scary to think about. This has been a fear, this has been a worry, this has been a concern since the Cold War era, which started after World War II in the late 40s and early 1950s. And so it's still a threat. As you know, there was a large explosion that happened in Lebanon that they had several different weird stories about what it actually was, whether it was a chemical plant explosion, whether it was a fireworks factory explosion. And honestly, it looked like to me it was a low-yield nuclear strike, or even probably maybe like a MOAB, a non-nuclear large-yield explosive device missile. I don't know, can't confirm that. Maybe it was an accident, hard to say, but just from looking at it and just based off of the research of different types of weaponry and videos that I've watched, it looked like it was some type of missile weapon, low yield nuke or non-nuclear warhead. And so that's what it is, folks. Google.com. How many nukes does Russia have? Several thousands. Look into it yourself, do your own research, don't take my word for it. Moving on. NewYorkPost.com. This is how many nukes it would take to destroy society. Very interesting. Alright, there is the article. Look at that picture of the Earth being exploded. NewYorkPost.com. Interesting article here, let's read. New research argues that 100 nuclear weapons is the pragmatic limit for any country to have in its arsenal. Any aggressor nation unleashing more than 100 nuclear weapons could ultimately devastate its own society, scientists warn. And how many tests have they done? How many nuclear explosive tests have they done? Hundreds? So does that mean that just like the radiation levels in the atmosphere are just constantly going to be at way higher levels now? Or they do they drill really deep down, or use really deep mines to test nuclear explosions, and that's got to be bad for the soil. It probably irradiates all the soil in the surrounding area. And so, let's continue here. The study was published in the journal Safety on Thursday. It was co-authored by Michigan Technology University professor Joshua Pierce and David Deckenberger, Assistant Professor, Tennessee State University, and Director of Alliance to Feed on the Earth in Disasters. The result found that 100 nuclear warheads is adequate for nuclear deterrence in the worst-case scenario, while using more than 100 nuclear weapons by an aggressor nation, including the best positioned strategically to handle the unintended consequences, even with optimistic assumptions, including no retaliation, would cause unacceptable damage to their own society, the scientist wrote. There are approximately 15,000 nuclear weapons globally, according to research, with the U.S. and Russia accounting for nearly 90% of that total. With 9 nuclear weaponized countries, 9 countries have nukes. The paper argues for a disarmament proposal that would reduce the number of nuclear weapons in the world to 900 or less. 100 nuclear warheads is the pragmatic limit, and use of government funds to maintain more than 100 nuclear weapons does not appear to be rational, the paper argues. That's another thing. They built all these nukes. They don't even have the manpower or the money or the resources to maintain these nuclear weapons, and deteriorating and falling into disrepair. Who knows what kind of radiation could be leaking out of these? They contain plutonium and enriched uranium, I believe. I mean, it's bad stuff. I mean, it's toxic, very pollutant, very bad pollutant. I mean, it's not good. So, I mean, there you have it. I mean, 100 nukes, they're saying, strategically placed. That's the thing. They have done several, whole lot of tests of nukes, but they did them, like I said, underground or possibly at the bottom of the ocean in some instances, or way out in the desert, away from populated areas, and so it's not really as bad. And then over time, Mother Earth does assimilate and, you know, draw in the poison, and so the, you know, over time the radiation dissipates, and so plant life comes back after decades or whatever. And so they did do a lot of those tests way back in the day. So hopefully all the tests of nuclear explosions didn't do too much harm to the Earth, but 100 strategically placed nukes in city centers and major populated metropolitan areas could completely devastate all of society. And I mean, we have plenty of nukes, and it could definitely happen. There's tons of nukes in the US, tons of nukes in Russia, and Biden's imposing economic sanctions, which is working towards deteriorating relations, and war could be nuclear war. And I don't want war. I think that we should have good relations with China, good relations with Russia. At the same time, corrupt politicians and government leaders should be held accountable. And that goes for both Russia and China. And here we have the new hilarious Ben Garrison political cartoon. He is arguably the most influential and the best political cartoonist in the entire world. Definitely the most prolific. And here it is. We have Biden sniffing Mother Russia, Big Bear. And the bear's holding an AK-47, and the bear's getting pissed. There's steam coming out from between the eyes of the bear. And then Biden's doing his classic sniffing from behind the head. Creepy Biden. Sleepy, creepy, sleepy, slow Joe China. Beijing Joe. There he is, sniffing Mother Bear of Mother Russia. And he says, "I love the smell of war." Ben Garrison hitting on all cylinders. Once again, folks, his cartoons are the best. Check him out, Ben Garrison. You can find him on the internet. I love Ben Garrison. He's got the best cartoons. And now we have some fun stuff to talk about. Very interesting stuff here. This is from www.ii12.com. Pentagon says this video taken by Navy is indeed a UFO. Here we have it. That is a still frame from the video taken from a Navy vessel of a UFO. And this is actually from CNN. There you see it. CNN, folks, reporting UFOs. What's going on here? Pentagon says this video taken by Navy is indeed a UFO. Let us read. The Defense Department has confirmed that leaked photos and video of unidentified aerial phenomena taken in 2019 are indeed legitimate images of unexplained objects. Photos and videos of triangle-shaped objects blinking and moving through the clouds were taken by Navy personnel, Pentagon spokeswoman Sue Gall says in a statement to CNN. She also confirmed the photos of 3 unidentified flying objects, one sphere-shaped, another acorn-shaped, and one characterized as a metallic blimp, were also taken by Navy personnel. Wow, so not are these only disc shapes or flying saucer shapes, but they're spheres, acorn shapes, and blimps, metallic blimps, and they could potentially be shape-shifting. As we have said before, to maintain operation security and to avoid disclosing information that may be useful to potential adversaries, DoD does not discuss publicly the details of either the observations or the examinations of reported incursions into our training ranges or designated airspace, including those incursions initially designated as UAP, Unidentified Aerial Phenomena, Go said. She also said that Unidentified Aerial Phenomenal Task Force, created in August to investigate UFO sightings observed by the military, has included these incidents in their ongoing examinations. The Navy photos and videos were published by Mystery Wire and Extraordinary Beliefs website last week, but had been circulating online since last year. There have been a number of reports of unauthorized or unidentified aircraft entering various military control ranges and designated airspace in recent years, the Navy said in 2019. Last year, the Pentagon released 3 videos showing unidentified aerial phenomena, clips that the U.S. Navy had previously confirmed were real. The U.S. intelligence agencies have been directed to give unclassified reports about UAPs to Congress in June. So, there it is. Like I said, CNN reporting UFOs are real according to the Pentagon. Very interesting. What intrigues me the most was the different shapes that they found, that they captured in these photographs and videos. And I encourage you, look up these videos. They're available online. You can find them. Do a quick search. Do a little digging. You'll be able to find all this stuff. And like I said, a sphere, an acorn, or a metallic blimp. Very interesting. What kind of UFOs are these? And they're super fast. They'll be rising into the sky and then just all of a sudden just boom, and it just takes off. I've seen some of these videos. It's fascinating. And they can outrun any of our jet fighters. The F-22 can only go like, Mach 3. The SR-71 Blackbird only goes like, Mach 3.5, something like that. And these videos that I've seen of these UFOs, they're going like Mach 100, or more. It's crazy. So look it up. Look into it. It's pretty cool. All right, moving on. Next article. Aliens and Galactic Federation exist, ex-Israeli space chief claims. This is from globalnews.ca. Here we have it, Global News. Document cam shot. There it is, Galactic Federation. Wow, let's read this real quick. There is allegedly a galactic federation of alien species among the stars, and they don't want humans to be part of their club. A former head of Israel's military space program claims that extraterrestrials have made contact with officials in the United States and Israel over the years, but the aliens won't come out in public because they worry people will freak out. I won't freak out. In other words, they've done their homework. Have they? Humanity isn't ready, Professor and retired Israeli General Ham Eshed said this week during an interview with the Hebrew language paper Yedut Harananat. Eshed told the paper that aliens are already among us on Earth, and that several species have formed a galactic federation akin to the one seen in Star Trek, according to translations by the Jerusalem Post. He also suggested that the U.S. and Israel have been collaborating with aliens on space travel for years, and that U.S. President Donald Trump was on the verge of revealing their existence. Why didn't Trump come out with aliens? He totally should have, honestly. Eshed, 87, spoke to the paper while promoting his upcoming book, The Universe Beyond the Horizon. His claims are wide-ranging, earth-shaking, and unverified, but his credentials are hard to ignore. He previously served as a top official in Israel's military space program from 1981 until 2010, and was responsible for the country's Ofek satellite project. He says, I won't talk to you about what I know about it, but it's very interesting. And Trump claimed in June that he heard very interesting things about Roswell, the New Mexico city known for an alleged UFO event in 1947. The president has used similar language in the past to tease other bits of supposed secret knowledge, including his false claims of election fraud in recent weeks. Was it false? Trump had not made any specific revelations about aliens during his term, but he did found the Space Force as a new branch of the U.S. military. His government also revealed earlier this year that 3 previously leaked videos of unidentified aerial phenomena were legitimate, though they did not specify the nature of the objects. So you see, it used to be UFO, unidentified flying object. Now they switch it up, UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena. That's part of the cloaking, that's part of the secret. If aliens are already among us, that's probably why they did that, to get people off the track of the aliens, because they're still trying to hide from us apparently. If, according to this article, Israeli military and space program leader-in-chief says that there's a Galactic Federation, just like in Star Trek. I mean, what information and inside knowledge did Gene Roddenberry have back in the day? I mean, and when did Star Trek come out? In like the late 50s? Early 60s, I believe? Sometime around there was like when the first Star Trek episodes first aired on TV. And seems that Gene Roddenberry was way above his time. Way beyond his time. Way before his time, I think that's the saying. And he definitely probably had some inside knowledge about what's going on with the aliens, because, I mean, I think that Star Trek is a very good indicator for what the future potentially could be like, where there's basically peace on Earth, but there are alien threats and different alien civilizations on different planets that are the threats, and so there is space warfare. I think that's probably the future. I think that it is a situation probably where there is a Galactic Federation and the Earth just hasn't been let in on it yet, because we're not ready yet, we're not advanced enough yet, we're still basically very primitive, we're still squabbling amongst ourselves, we haven't really reached a level to where everyone in the population has access to free energy, we haven't reached a level of freedom yet probably that the aliens think that we need to obtain before we're ready to be let into the Galactic Federation. They're probably looking at us like, wow, they're just fighting over dumb stuff. They got plenty of resources. They have all the means. And they're enslaving their people. And a lot of their top leadership has turned their souls over to Satan. And they're not enlightened yet. They don't have God's vision. So we're not going to let them into the club yet. That's probably what they're thinking. So we need to reach a higher enlightened state, folks. We need to open our minds. We need to start asking big questions. We need to start thinking critically. We all need to put on our big boy pants and big girl pants and just grow up, honestly. And, I mean, this is what's important in life. I mean, you know, TV shows and, you know, guilty pleasure TV shows, watching, you know, whatever, junk TV, or, you know, if you're like obsessed with, you know, different movies or TV shows or stuff like that, that's not that important. What's really important is like the big questions of what's really going on in the world, the mysteries of life, and the questions of how do we reach a higher state of enlightenment, how do we make the world a better place, how do we bring peace, how do we bring justice, true justice, how do we give people freedom, how do we make people leaders, and how do we encourage people to be independent and really be self-reliant. Self-reliance is super important. And so that's what everyone should strive for. It's not really about watching junk TV and being obsessed with, you know, Marvel movies or whatever. It's really about like doing research on important topics that you find interesting. And I mean, nothing against junk TV or Marvel movies. I mean, I enjoy Marvel movies occasionally. But I'm just saying people should start researching really important topics a little bit more, just so the world can become a better place and reach a higher vibrational state, a higher level of consciousness, a higher ascended state of being. And that's what we need, so the aliens will let us into the Galactic Federation. And so that is my show for tonight, folks. That's the last article. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight on this special Saturday, episode 11, April 17th, 2021. Once again, I'm your host, Austin Perry. This is the Austin Perry Show, where we talk about current events, politics, culture, and news. And you can find my video content on the social media platforms Rumble, BitChute, and Brighteon. That's where I'm posting mostly. Rumble, BitChute, and Brighteon, that's where you can find me. They're all about free speech, and so that's what I love about them, and so that's why I'm utilizing them. And also, I have a website, which is my main website. You can go check that out. It's a cool website. You'll like it. AustinParry.org. That's P-A-R-R-Y. That's where I have my video content. That's where I post images of my artwork. I do illustrations and paintings, and that's where I sell different merchandise, and I sell my artwork on my website as well. AustinParry.org. P-A-R-R-Y. And if you would like to leave me a donation, I will be eternally grateful. That will help to support my content. I am just a working class man. I'm really trying to bring everyone super important information and help to red pill people and open people's eyes so that we can potentially get into the Galactic Federation that a lot of people are talking about that's probably real. And you can support me by leaving me a donation via PayPal. And my email address for that is austin.perry@gmail.com. Once again, my email address to leave me a donation via PayPal, that's austin.perry@gmail.com, and that's P-A-R-R-Y. Thank you so much for watching tonight, everybody. I will see you on the next episode, which will be posted tomorrow, which will be episode 12. I'm keeping it going. We're going strong here. And thank you so much for watching. I love you all. Love and peace. Have a good night, and goodbye.